see it there. Our Josh Pate in Tuscaloosa for his Once Upon a Saturday tour, along with Dennis Dodd, as we have Bama hosting Texas. Off-camera, guys, Josh, you were giving us a report on the weather, but we also need a vibe check. So how are the vibes in Bama ahead of this marquee matchup, guys?
Jacqueline, Dennis, as you know, vibe and weather go hand in hand. Excellent tee up here. Dew points very manageable, low to mid 80s. People are pouring into town right now. We're a little over 24 hours in advance of kickoff, Dennis. We looked at that Longhorn logo and that Alabama logo. This is college football at its best. It's early season, out of conference at its best. And if you're a storyline person who just casually watches the game, this one's got it all. If you're diehard, this one's got it all. Both teams still unblemished, obviously. I was going back and forth on this on my drive down here last night, Dennis, and I was trying to figure out which team does a win mean more for, and I could go either way. So I'm gonna let you go, and I'll just make the counter argument.
Well, Alabama's been here before, not playing big time, non-conference games like this maybe, but getting to the playoff and winning big games, we know that. For Texas, it's been a 15-year walk in the desert. Ever since Marcel Darius shredded Colt McCoy's right shoulder in the 2010 Rose Bowl BCS championship game, Texas hasn't been Texas. They won 10 a couple of times. They're expected to win the Big 12 this year, but that's secondary. If they win tomorrow, and we're going to talk about this, that changes everything, especially now since the game was scheduled. They're going in the SEC next year. This is their entree into the league.
All right, so let me just present the Crimson side of this. We've heard them doubted before. Remember in the 20-teens, Ole Miss came in here, +5 turnovers, beat Alabama, and some people out there in the national sphere said maybe this is it. Maybe the Nick Saban dynasty is waning. But they ended up winning a national championship that year. If Bama were to lose this game, I think there would be as legitimate a resounding questioning of the direction of the program and whether Nick Saban has long passed his peak as we've heard in the Nick Saban era. And also, remember, Dennis, we're going to see it on full display tomorrow night. They have totally shifted philosophically here and reverted, if you will, back to an old form that we've seen work for Alabama. But the thing about it is we don't really know if it's going to work again. And so what if Texas gets up 17-3 and Alabama can't keep up, which leads us right into our next point, and that's the quarterbacks here. What if Jalen Milroe finds himself behind in this game and has to throw the ball? Because a lot of people in this program are confident we can run the ball on anyone. Well, 17-3, 20-6, a game like that doesn't really lend itself to you pounding it down someone's throat. So what do you expect from Jalen Milroe?
I expect him to progress. I don't think they showed much last week. When he had to play last year, he was okay.
Yeah.
He wasn't great. And it goes around and around in my head, and we talked about it. Who is Jalen Milroe? Is he Blake Sims? Is he early Jalen Hurts? I think he's a combination of those guys. Blake Sims, if people don't remember, in 2014 was a converted running back, the first of the spread era quarterbacks under Nick when he brought in Lane Kiffin, and set the offensive total yards record that's since been broken.
Unbelievable.
But same kind of player. I think Jalen's a bit more refined, better arm, has to be more accurate, I think, to be better. But we're seeing that throwback to what this program was pre-2014. Defense, run the ball, punt, game management. And that's what it's going to be. It ain't sexy, but it may win a championship.
I think you could also blend in a little bit of Jacob Coker's game with that, because Jake Coker had the size and physicality that Milroe has. Milroe, a lot better overall athlete than Coker. Look over on the other side, though, with Quinn Ewers. Here's an interesting little subplot. I'm going to ask it rhetorically because then I'm about to unprofessionally answer my own question. Which quarterback feels more pressure in this one? Because I think if you answer really quick, you say, oh, Jalen Milroe. He's at home, they're favored, it's Alabama, et cetera, et cetera. But all due respect, Milroe's not the one who came out of high school with sky-high expectation. He wasn't the one that was rated #1 transcendent, surefire 3-and-out, eventual first-round draft pick. No one said that about Jalen Milroe. They thought he was a really good player, kind of raw, let's give him time to develop. Quinn Ewers, we think, can do it, but he hasn't done it yet. And Quinn Ewers is the one who is sort of in his last hurrah, last go-around, or at least that's what the perception is. He cut his hair, so we all know that normally breeds success. And also, Dennis, he's the one surrounded by all the offensive firepower. And so he's the one led by Steve Sarkisian, the one who rewrote the record books at this university, by the way. If they don't get it done, maybe if it's Alabama up 20-6, maybe if it's Alabama kind of stonewalling this Texas offense, I think we exit this thing starting to ask ourselves, well, if not now, then when for Quinn Ewers in this offense?
I think it was great last year against Alabama, but he has yet to put his stake in the ground. For all the promise, for all the 5 stars, for all the NIL money that he went to Ohio State for a year for, he hasn't put his stake in the ground and won that big game yet. On paper, Texas has the best quarterback, the better quarterback. But in reality, he's playing on the road against a monster program, and this is a game I think he has to win to solidify his future and, frankly, Texas' future, because their credibility in the SEC, at least for the short term, is going to be on the line.
We're going to get predictions in a second. Everyone always says, by the way, if you look at the exclusive company here, I mean, you got Burrow, and that's the last 5 quarterbacks to win at Alabama. That 2019 game, unbelievable. I think the atmosphere that we get in Bryant-Denny tomorrow night will be the most peak Bryant-Denny environment since that 2019 game. But think about what had to happen here. Burrow, Chad Kelly was the 5-turnover game. Johnny Manziel was the week after Bama won in overtime at LSU. You had to thread the needle. Cam Newton came back from 24-0. So it takes a special performance on the road, but it also took really good line play, and it took a lot of fortuitous bounces for some of those guys as well. And I'm really interested, Dennis, because this offensive line at Alabama, that's what they've been the most excited about. The defensive line at Texas, that's what they've been the most excited about. And for all the talk we just did about quarterbacks, I think the Alabama ground game, or lack thereof, against this Texas front, that will really dictate a lot. Because if they start reestablishing line of scrimmage, if it's pop, pop, burst, if all of a sudden we get to halftime, Bama's 6.5 yards per carry, that's probably all she wrote in the second half. But if Texas can get 3rd and 7 consistently, different ball game, best chance to win.
And don't forget, they have the +1 runner. You know, we can talk about Jace McClellan, but they have the +1 runner in Milroe. Something I want to add about the quarterbacks, what we didn't mention was 3 of the last 5 quarterbacks, those guys have all won the Heisman.
Yes.
So if Quinn Ewers does that, he kind of gets in the conversation, I guess, as well.
All right, so my prediction, and Dennis Dodd's prediction here, I think that the single biggest mismatch that bears itself out over 4 quarters is actually the Texas offensive line. A lot of talented pieces there, but the cohesion to deal with this kind of environment and this kind of pass rush, which lost Will Anderson, but they think may sneakily be better than last year. I think that's probably what decides it. Milroe plays a good enough game. Alabama's offensive line shines. I'm going to take Alabama to win. I actually like them to cover. Not a blowout game. 4-quarter game decided late, but I like the Tide lay the 7.
I'm the same way. It was 7.5 this morning, but I was all over Alabama this week because it's here, because it's Alabama. And I started to think on Friday, again, on paper, Texas has the better quarterback. We'll see. Arguably on paper, the better offensive line. All 5 starters return. The best defensive line they've had in years. Maybe the better running backs. I know they're young. They're 5 stars. But then I started to think, it's Bryant-Denny.
Yeah.
And it's that 2019 atmosphere with LSU. That might be enough to carry him through. And I think Milroe's legs, I think Jace McClellan's legs, and receivers you can't name will make big plays because they don't go over the top. They won't go over the top on this defense, but they will make plays. So I like Alabama, again, to cover the number.
Tomorrow it will be on fire here. As for the rest of today, Jacqueline, Uncle Dennis and I are headed to the pool. I hope you enjoy things there in the studio.
Uncle Dennis. I love that nickname. Josh, Dennis, thank you guys so much. Enjoy the pool, fellas. Both guys rolling with Bama as they take on Texas on Saturday. You can hear more of Josh on his podcast, Late Kick with Josh Pate, updating you on all the latest in the world of college football. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, the crew is live at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Late Kick YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out.